What's up everyone, it's your boy Pav, and before we get started with today's video, I'm happy to announce that the video is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon is on a mission to prove that you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for quality sound and essential smart tech listening features. This is a no BS product in every single way. Thanks to Raycon, you're paying half the price for the same, if not better quality earbuds. And as you know, in this economy, you gotta look for the best value. These are great affordable wireless earbuds for everyday use, and they come with tons of great features. My favorites being, first off, the noise isolation, which makes sure that when you're using these, you're going to be totally immersed as they block out the outside noise. Second, they are also sweat and water resistant, and most importantly for me, you also get 8 hours of playtime with everyday buds. So when I was on my flight to LA, it was no problem, and if I go work out right now, it's definitely not a problem. And I just love how snug they fit, how discreet they are, you can barely tell you're wearing them, and I don't gotta worry about them falling down if I'm running around or doing anything. No matter what I'm doing, they're staying in my ears. Basically, these earbuds got you covered in every way, every day. So if you want some no BS, affordable, quality earbuds that have great sound and tons of features, click the link in the description down below or go to buyraycon.com/WrestlingGifs to get 15% off your order of Raycon. Get yourself some quality earbuds so your next flight or your next workout is top tier, and at the same time, support the channel. That's buyraycon.com/WrestlingGifs to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Shout out to Raycon for sponsoring today's video, but now it's time for today's feature presentation. Let's get into it. It was December 14, 2008, and it was a cold night in Buffalo, New York. And what was supposed to be just another Sunday night with a B-level pay-per-view turned out to be a night that a generation of wrestling fans would never ever forget. After 10 years since his true debut in the company, 10 years of putting his body on the line, after years filled with suspensions, fines, getting fired, drug problems, after years of it seeming impossible, the kid from North Carolina who had just become one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time did the impossible. It was the night that Jeff Hardy won the WWE Championship. After everything he had been through, after a whole generation of fans witnessed his rise, witnessed his departure, and then his return, it was one of the most fun, most heartwarming moments in wrestling history, and it was finally the beginning of the Jeff Hardy era. This was the time that everybody around the ages of 7 to 13 were huge Jeff Hardy fans. This was the time when we would play SVR for hours just so we could play as Jeff Hardy and do the Swanton Bomb. This was when Jeff Hardy was a god to a whole generation of wrestling fans. And as a result, this was one of the greatest nights of watching wrestling in my young life, seeing Jeff Hardy finally win the title. And I never would have guessed that in just 8 short months, that I would be having one of the saddest nights watching wrestling in my life, and that this man would be gone from the WWE. Once Armageddon ended, it seemed like it was truly time for the Jeff Hardy era. SmackDown the next week had the iconic title celebration that had so much pyro that it sounded like the Vietnam War. The fans were going crazy, there was confetti everywhere, and I was like, damn, it's finally his time. So when he walked into the Royal Rumble pay-per-view next month and was gonna defend his title against Edge, I feel like all of us, especially as kids, thought it was a no-brainer that Jeff was going to retain, and whether you loved him or hated him, it was obvious, it was crystal clear, it was no doubt Jeff Hardy's time. But nah, just 1 month into his reign, he lost the title, thanks to his stupid ass brother interfering and costing him the title. Of course, that slimy, disgusting piece of shit Edge was champion once again, and just like that, Jeff was back into the mid-card. They had the second most popular wrestler in the company finally become champion. They gave him the biggest celebration possible just for him to lose it in a month and go feud with his brother. And that's what he did. For months, all the way until the end of April, Jeff and his brother had their beef, but all we wanted was Jeff Hardy as the champion. We were past him having mid-card feuds or winning the US title, Intercontinental title, just doing whatever. We needed him to do one thing, and that one thing was be the top guy and be the world champion. And as time went by, as Jeff Hardy beat his brother's ass every single night, after 5 long months, our boy finally made it to the main event once again. It was Jeff Hardy versus Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship, and it was only right. If Jeff was going to be champion once again, he had to defeat Edge, and there was nothing that was going to make us more happy than seeing Edge lose to Jeff Hardy. And even though that slimy mother Canucker finessed the win in the first match, it all led to the dream match. It all led to Extreme Rules 2009, Jeff Hardy versus Edge for the world title in a ladder match. Two all-time legends, two men who go way back, two men who had come a long way from WrestleMania 17, now one-on-one in a match that they helped make famous, and they just killed each other. A match highly responsible for Edge having to retire just 2 years later. These men went into that ring and they put their bodies on the line. After some of the most insane spots you'll ever see in a wrestling match, it all ended with the most satisfying ending I have ever seen. Edge stuck between the ladder as Jeff Hardy climbs up. Edge is trying to do everything he can, but Jeff Hardy climbs up and becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. With Jim Ross making the call, the fans going crazy, once again Jeff Hardy was champion and all was right in the world. And now with the biggest op being defeated, now that Edge was dead, it was perfect. Life was good and every single kid from the ages 7 to 13 around the world was going crazy. And now rightfully so, after everything he had been through, it was finally time for the Jeff Hardy era. But then, all you hear is this. Just when we thought the slimy, disgusting, hairy piece of shit was defeated, out came another one. CM Punk walked out and simply cashed in his money in the bank, and in a span of 5 minutes, we went from "this is the greatest thing I've ever seen" to please don't do this. Jeff Hardy lost his title just 5 minutes after winning it. It was like New Year's Revolution 2006 all over again. But this one, nah, this one hurt different. This one stung a little deeper because this was a guy who as kids we loved more than anything. But unlike Cena, it seemed like Jeff would never catch a break. It seemed like he was never gonna have his true reign. He would never truly make it. And now that he finally did, out comes this mother. And CM Punk ruins everything. And ladies and gentlemen, this was the start of the legendary CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy rivalry. A rivalry that was so good, so captivating, but a rivalry that hurt every little Jeff Hardy fan out there. Because after this rivalry, as amazing as it was, nothing was ever the same. By the summer of 2009, every week the fans were cheering for Jeff Hardy like he was 1986 Michael Jackson. The fans were behind Jeff so much that it didn't make any sense. And now you had the perfect heel preventing the perfect face from becoming the champion. A heel that was the total opposite of Jeff. Someone who thought he was truly better than Jeff, not just as a wrestler, but as a man. And this dynamic created magic. CM Punk would always find a way to win, somehow, some way. Whether it was all by luck, whether it was by him faking an injury and getting disqualified, this guy would always win. Just like usual, Jeff Hardy would come up short, but it just added fuel to the fire. Seeing Jeff Hardy get finessed every single week just made us want to see him become champion that much more. Seeing Vince McMahon backstage tell Jeff Hardy that he doesn't want him as a champion just made us want to see him become champion that much more. And the final straw was seeing CM Punk pull up to an episode of SmackDown and bring up Jeff Hardy's drug problem, his rehab stints, and his wellness policy strikes. Just hearing that made us want to see him become champion that much more. Every week this storyline was getting more personal, more heated, and more real, and it was honestly a trip. Being 10 years old and watching CM Punk tell your favorite wrestler that when he loses at Night of Champions that he's gonna go back to being a drug addict, this was different. This was unlike the other storylines we were getting on TV. This truly felt real. And yes, every single week, Punk would tell the world how Jeff is a drug addict, how he's a bum, this and that, but it didn't matter. We were young, and that was our guy. We didn't know what his problems were, we didn't know what was really going on, and honestly, we didn't care. Cause to us, he seemed fine, and all we wanted to see was Jeff Hardy beat CM Punk and become the World Heavyweight Champion. And that night finally came at Night of Champions 2009, when by some divine miracle, after surviving a GTS, Jeff Hardy hit CM Punk with the Twist of Fate and the Swanton combo. 1, 2, 3, Jeff Hardy finally became champion once again. As everybody jumped for joy, it finally seemed real. It finally felt real. There was no Matt Hardy to ruin this. There was no Money in the Bank to ruin this. Instead, Jeff had won, the good guy had won, and all was right in the world. With no more words playing in the arena, fans jumping for joy, third time's the charm. Now it was finally time. It was finally time for the Jeff Hardy era. And from here on out, for the next month or so, in my 10-year-old mind, this was when life was perfect. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the summer of 2009. Kobe had just won another ring. Crosby had won his first Stanley Cup. I was heading to middle school in September, so I was all excited for that. And most importantly, Jeff Hardy was the World Heavyweight Champion. And there was nothing that was going to stop him this time. So when I found out that Jeff was going to defend his title at SummerSlam against CM Punk in a TLC match, was I worried? Hell no. It was going to be the perfect end of the trilogy and the perfect end to the summer. Jeff Hardy was going to destroy Punk, stay champion, and continue his run. So yo, you bet your ass I begged my mom to order SummerSlam 09. I didn't care about Cena versus Randy. I didn't care about DX. The only thing that mattered to me was the main event. It was a TLC match. And what a match it was. It felt like the perfect conclusion to the feud. This feud that felt so personal, so real. And for 25 minutes they went out there and tore the house down. So many insane spots, so much mayhem, and the feeling of watching this was next level. See yo, back in the day, Jeff Hardy TLC matches were things of lore back in the day. We used to watch these on YouTube in 240p and just pray that one day I hope we can see one live. So when you finally saw one live, it was unbelievable. And I was having the time of my life because I knew deep down that there was no way Jeff wasn't going to win. There was no way that Jeff was going to lose. And man, when Jeff Hardy did the Swanton Bomb off the top of the ladder, that 20-foot ladder, I remember it vividly. I remember just jumping up and down my living room, being in shock at what I just seen. I even woke my parents up who were sleeping upstairs just from jumping around and screaming. I thought Armageddon 08 was special, but this was gonna be even better. And of course, how would I ever forget when they're at the top of the ladder fighting back and forth and just waiting, just hoping that Punk falls down and that Jeff grabs the title and he just wins. And it felt like an eternity when they're just trading at the top and my heart was racing. I was standing, I was just waiting for Jeff to win, and the next thing you know, boom. It wasn't Punk that fell down, it was Jeff. To say it was shocking would be an understatement. Jeff Hardy fell, CM Punk stood on top of the ladder and became champion once again. It was just so shocking. It was such a plot twist that I was left speechless. Going into the show, I thought there was no way in hell that Jeff was losing. It seemed impossible. Jeff wasn't going to lose to this bum, and especially not in a TLC match. That's not happening. But it did, and there I was at 10 years old sitting there depressed after making my mom spend $40 just to watch my favorite wrestler lose the most important match of his career. It made no sense. I was sad, I was hurt, and what made it even worse was The Undertaker came back after the match. Everybody else was cheering and probably excited, but for me, I was just there depressed because The Undertaker seemingly replaced Jeff Hardy from the main event scene. And I was just sad because not only did our boy lose a title, to me it looked like he had just lost a spot. But little did I know, it was much worse than just losing a spot. Little did I know, I wasn't gonna see Jeff Hardy on a WWE pay-per-view until I was in university. It was August 28th, 2009, just a short 8 months after Armageddon 2008. What was supposed to be just another episode of SmackDown ended up being the night we got Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk in a steel cage match for the World Heavyweight Championship, but also a match where the loser would have to leave the WWE. I remember watching this episode of SmackDown and being so excited when they announced this match for the night. I remember telling my mom like, yo, Jeff is gonna become champion again, let's go. To me, to little 10-year-old me who wasn't reading internet wrestling news, who wasn't reading SmackDown spoilers, to me, this was going to make up for SummerSlam and then some. This was gonna be the night Jeff Hardy becomes champion again and CM Punk is never to be seen ever again. So when Jeff Hardy walked into that steel cage that night, I had no idea this was already taped. I had no idea this already happened, but yo, you bet your ass I was praying, I was hoping that somehow, some way, Jeff would win this match. And I remember this match just being a blur. I remember being so anxious during this match and just remember looking at the clock and being like, oh, it's 9:50, you know, there's still 10 minutes left. There's no way the match ends that early. I was hanging on every punch, every kick, every pinfall, everything. And when I went to commercial, of course, the paranoia got even more wild. I had seen so many TV matches at that point. For a good 5 years, I'd watched every Raw, every SmackDown, but no match, I swear, no match had me this captivated, had me this interested, had me hanging on every single move like this match. SmackDown came back from commercial and eventually they ended up fighting at the top of the steel cage. I remember them just slugging it out, they're exchanging, and the fans were cheering Jeff on. There were even some CM Punk fans, and I wanted Jeff to win this so damn bad. And then all you see is CM Punk just pokes him in the eye and boom, Jeff Hardy falls into the ring and CM Punk falls to the ground. It felt so anticlimactic, it felt so out of nowhere, and then it hit me. Wait, CM Punk just won. The visual of CM Punk's ugly ass face on the ground smiling his stupid yellow teeth is something that has haunted me in my dreams for a long time. And when that bell rang, I swear to God, it did not feel real. Just like that, literally just like that, in a snap of a finger, just 8 months after his career defining moment, in the middle of his prime, in his peak as a wrestler, in a time where everyone in the world was a Jeff Hardy fan, he was gone from the WWE. Nah, man, like, yo, 1 second I was so confident, I was so excited, like, yo, Jeff is gonna win this, and the next second he's in the ring, CM Punk's outside, and it just became one of the saddest nights I ever had watching wrestling as a kid, no doubt. I wasn't mad, I wasn't angry, I was just sad. I can confirm that I had tears in my eyes watching this on TV. I was trying so hard to not cry, but my favorite wrestler, who for the past year or so had overtaken John Cena, my guy, the man who I wanted to see champion so bad, the reason why I loved wrestling so much in 2009 when a lot of my friends stopped watching wrestling, I still was into it because I had Jeff Hardy, but now he was officially gone. In the prime of his career, it just made no sense. It was so sad, it hurt, it was depressing. It just did not seem real. It was supposed to be just another episode of SmackDown, and I was sad, yeah, that Jeff wasn't champion anymore, but I'm like, whatever, at least I'll still see him, at least he's still on the roster. But instead, it ended up being the night where half of the crowd was left crying, and every kid watching at home was definitely crying. It ended up being the night that our favorite wrestler was leaving the company. And this was before a lot of us were on the internet, this was before a lot of us would find wrestling news online, before spoilers, before Twitter, before social media. This was when all we knew was what we watched on TV every single week. So we had no reason to believe that Jeff Hardy was just gonna leave on an episode of SmackDown and not come back. But of course, online there were reports from even before SummerSlam that Jeff Hardy was leaving, so all of the older fans already knew that he was losing at SummerSlam. They knew he was gonna lose at SmackDown, but us kids, we had no idea. Instead, we were just left there in shock. It's truly impossible to explain how sad we were, how much this hurt. Watching that SmackDown and seeing Jeff lose, we had no idea. At the end of the day, we had no idea that Jeff had given his notice, that he told the company that he was too burnt out and then he needed time off to heal his injuries. We had no idea that he didn't want to resign. In our heads, we thought Jeff Hardy was gonna be here forever, but nah. All we were left with were our tears. And I remember being so sad after this show and so hurt that I got my PSP, went on the internet browser, and I went to Facebook. And this was back in the day when they used to have a fan page called WWE Universe. And I remember I spent my whole night just leaving comments and posting on the wall, replying to everything and everyone I saw, just typing out, "Bring back Jeff Hardy, we want Jeff Hardy, please bring back Jeff Hardy." And to this day, I remember the entire Facebook page was just covered with random people from all around the world just begging for Jeff Hardy to come back. That's how much this affected the wrestling fans back in the day. We were begging him to come back on the official Facebook page. But it was done. He was gone. This is a moment that many people might not care about, but if you were between the ages of 7 and 13, this was a moment, because we were at that age where Jeff Hardy was God. We were the target demographic that latched onto Jeff Hardy with our lives, and we were a part of this ride from the beginning. We were there for the wins and the losses, and we never ever thought that it would end just like that. But just 8 months after the biggest win of his career, he was gone. And the last image we got of him on that episode of SmackDown was CM Punk coming out and beating his ass even more. It was supposed to be just another episode of SmackDown. Instead, it was the night that Jeff Hardy left the WWE. And honestly, it was the night that he left a whole generation of fans heartbroken.